So Sanjay and Dennis, just to let you know, I am controlling the presentation here, so you can just ask me to move slides as you'd like to move on to the next topic. I
Very
think
good.
maybe 2 more minutes, 5:05 will officially get underway. All right, well, I don't see anybody else in the waiting room, so take it away, please, Sanjay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for being available to attend this workshop. Um, I would suggest that we answer questions during the presentation, if that's okay, Dennis,
That's fine.
so that we can just make sure if there's no something that wasn't clear during our presentation, we just clarify it then. This presentation is really for you. So that we really make sure everyone understands why we're doing this rate study, what are we funding, what's the benefit associated with this project. We definitely want to make sure everyone understands this. We want to be as clear as possible. So if there's any questions, definitely let us know. Maybe you can raise your hand, and Anthony, you can look at the hand feature and then let us know, and then we can answer your question. And first off, I just want to also apologize. We'll try not to use acronyms, but as an industry, we love to use acronyms, and we all tend to do that, including myself. We'll try our best not to, but there are a lot of acronyms in the water world. So today's agenda is present the workshop, and then talking about the schedule, talk about the drivers behind this rate study. Then we want to get in the benefits, of course, and then we want to get into the financial plan, sort of the mechanics of how we're going to fund this important project. We also want to do some modification to the rate structure. You may not be familiar with the rate structure, but there are some changes we want to do. And then most importantly, of course, is what are the rates that we're talking about for the next 5 years? And what does that mean to you as a customer? And what are those increases are? So for the remote workshop, that is for today. We're having that on October 7th. We also have an on-site one on October 23rd at 5 p.m. So definitely come and join us. That will be at the district's office. And then we'll also have a rate hearing where you can voice your comments and concerns. That's on November 4th. Dennis, what time is the November 4th meeting?
That'll be at 6 p.m.
And then that's also going to be at the district office.
Correct. In the board conference room.
Yes. So now I'm going to turn it over to staff to talk about the drivers behind the study.
Good evening, everyone. One of the biggest drivers is investment in the water system. This slide that we're presenting here is kind of to show what the district has done over the last three rate studies going back to 2009 to address the infrastructure portion of the water system. In 2010 was the first year that we did do budget-based billing. Uh, and the nice thing about budget-based billing is it allows our revenues to remain stable and predictable annually. We have invested in the water infrastructure by investing in capital projects instead of reactive maintenance and repair as part of the rates. A portion of this is receiving revenues to allocate to future capital investments as either cash expenditures and debt service funding. We will address that in the next couple of slides. And the district has always utilized debt funding to allow for more capital projects to be developed. And by doing this, it allows us to levelize our annual payments, expenditures related to capital, and pass those over a longer term. That way it's not shouldered strictly on the current customer, since most of these projects are for 20, 30, and 50 years. So hopefully we'll address all these items fully for you. Next slide. To kind of put it in perspective, the district has remained transparent in what it does. Our investment in our water system over the last rate study period, which is 2020 through 2024, we are showing here on this particular slide investments that the district has made related to those capital expenditures, both in process and completed. To just kind of put it in perspective, the district over the last 10 years has completed pipeline replacement projects, 24 of them to be exact, in the amount of $16 million, a little over $16 million. We've also done system rehabilitation projects during that same period. 11 of those, that's an additional $1.5 million that were spent on those. Just talking about bond funding, you can see in 2021, we did $19 million worth of projects being completed. The biggest one in that year was the Little Rock Dam grade control structure to help with basically fixing an issue with sedimentation going in behind Little Rock Dam. That was financed through the 2018 water revenue bonds. And then in 2023, which just completed, we had several projects that were paid through debt financing from the 2021 water revenue bonds. So we just want to make that perfectly clear that the district does projects in such a way to improve the system, maintain reliability, and have value to the customer and the ratepayers. Next slide. And then right now, as we're talking about the 2024 rate study, part of that is planning for the future. All of us here in California know about the prolonged droughts that have been experienced the last few years. Weather whiplash, as it's referred to, and then the reliability of imported water being not as stable as it once was. So this kind of underscores what we're doing for the future, and that is to develop locally controlled water sources. And we'll be addressing one of the largest ones that will be part of the 5-year rate study that we're performing right now. Next slide. In looking at this slide, we have Pure Water Antelope Valley. This project, we are just breaking ground on the demonstration facility that will be east of the main office. This is something that we have to provide ahead of the full-scale production facility. This is to take and vet the regulations necessary for the state of California to prove that the technology will satisfy the requirements that they put forth for the district. Ultimately, this project, when we move on to the full-scale facility that should break ground late in 2026, will take and provide the district with a future water supply that it currently doesn't have at this moment. Next slide. So we were talking about advanced water purification as part of Pure Water AV. This will provide enough water to furnish 4.5 million gallons for 14,500 homes. This is roughly half of the district's served area population. So it'll make up a substantial portion of water that right now is volatile. Next slide. The big thing is the project benefits. It does create an additional local water supply. It decreases dependency on imported water. It does improve water resiliency for the district. And some of the biggest things is it allows us to replenish the groundwater basin as an end result of the water it produces. All the while we're ensuring water quality, helping address climate change, and creating local jobs and fueling economic growth from this new supply. Next slide. So this is a timeline for the project. As mentioned, we are currently constructing the demonstration facility. This should be online spring of 2025. Hopefully everything goes as planned and we can start conducting facility tours and with the operations in the winter of 2025. The full-scale facility is planned to break ground, as mentioned, about 2026, with construction being pretty much between 2027 and through 2029. And at that point, that will bring on a facility that will allow for 5,000 additional acre feet of water that the district currently does not have available to it. Next slide. And to put it in perspective, the biggest driver for our rates is inflation. We are seeing significant inflation related to construction. This particular slide is the construction inflation index. This is provided by engineering. I can't even remember the
News record, engineering news record.
Sorry.
And this is the building cost index, and this shows how much it's increased, specifically since 1980, but since 2020. You can see that those lines have sort of skyrocketed over the last few years. So where the district is able to provide less leaks, more maintenance, cleaner water, and potentially new sources of water in case of a drought, there is increased expenses going along with that. Capital projects have gone up in cost 100% over the last few years in some cases. There's significant capital expenditures needed, and that's included in the rate study financial plan. Additionally, there's some inflation which is being projected for non-capital expenditures. For example, utility costs over the last few years have gone up 27 to 70%, depending on the area and what utility it is. So we do include that in the overall financial plan, and that's a key driver for why these rate increases are needed beyond these great projects that the district is doing. Did you have any last thoughts on the benefits, Dennis, or should I pass it to Sanjay for the results of the financial plan?
I think we'll reserve anything related to questioning that we may receive from the public. So at that point, I think we'd be safe to move it on to Sanjay.
Well, thank you. So whenever we do, first thing, I think we just maybe take a step back. And so what we're talking about is the cost of providing water service. And water service, there are some legal frameworks that surround it, specifically Prop 218, because this is not a tax. This is a fee for service rendered to your property. And through a series of court cases, there are sort of like a legal framework that we use to design these rates. There are steps in doing these rate studies. One of them is a financial plan where we look at the cash that's needed to fund these projects. Then what we do, the second step is we ask ourselves how to allocate those costs so everyone pays its fair share. Unfortunately, because of the legal framework and the lawsuits that have occurred in the past, we can't subsidize certain customers, even though there's social economic reasons why we would want to do that. Unfortunately, we can't do that because it's a fee for service. This is not a tax. And then the last step is the rates and the impact. So we want to go over those steps with you and just to make sure you understand that we're following the legal framework and we're really discussing how we design these rates. So first step is a financial plan. And with the financial plan, what we've done is we've looked at all the different cost components. We asked ourselves the operating costs. We asked ourselves the cost to run this pure water project. And we developed a financial model where we can do different scenarios. So the first thing we look at is the bars in this graph. And those bars are the future forecasted expenditures. So we have purchased water, we have the operating costs, we have the debt service, as mentioned. We are doing quite a bit of debt issuance to fund this project. And then how much of the capital project will be PAYGO. PAYGO is an acronym we use in the water community, which means funded by cash. The red line there in that graph shows current revenues. And as you can see, that red line is above for fiscal year 24. CY is calendar year, excuse me. So we're meeting our costs in 24, but in 25, we're just slimming by. And then you can see in 26, 27, 28, 29, we're not meeting our costs. So that means we'll be eating into reserves and we'll have some financial challenges. So what we're recommending after a series of workshops with staff and the board, where we really sort of asked ourselves, how can we fund these projects as critical projects to maintain a water reliability in Palmdale? We came up with these percentage increase. This is the additional revenue that we need to collect. That's 11%, 11%, 9, 9, and 8. Now, what that means to each customer is slightly different because we do a proportionality and then we develop rates. But overall, this is the revenue that we need to collect in order to do that to maintain it. Now, that green line shows the revenues based on those percentages. And as you can see, the green line is slightly above the bars. So that means we're meeting our expenses and we're cash flow funding, being able to fund all these future expenditure levels. So this chart right here shows the ending cash balance. It's basically what's happened if we don't increase rates. The blue bars are our ending balances. And as you can see in 2027, it almost goes to zero. In 2028, it's negative, and 29 is negative. The orange bars are reserve target. If you notice the reserve target does go up, that's because of the project. There is some debt issuance associated with it. There's some obligation. There's some more money we need. Reserves are important. I know sometimes people think, well, why does the district need so much money in the bank? What is that for? Well, that's actually for you, because what it does is that it hinders risk. By the district having healthy reserves, if something goes wrong, it doesn't have to automatically increase rates. It could actually use those reserves and dip in. So it actually avoids rate shock. It also helped with the district with its credit rating. So it gets a better term on its interest rates. And the district has been able to get some really great terms on its interest rates, which are very low. And that means that the rates are lower for you. So reserves are actually beneficial. Low reserves mean more volatility in the rates in the future, potential with risk. So by doing those increases, these are the blue lines. We're building up slightly our reserves. We're still below the target, if you notice, because in order to meet the target, then we would have to increase the rates even further. So we don't want to do that. We want to try to minimize the rate increase as much as possible. So thus we're doing the 2 11s and then the 9s and the 8. So what does this mean now for rates and impact? So we talked about the financial plan. So let's go to the next discussion. And let's remind ourselves, what are our current rate structure? So we have a fixed charge and a variable charge. The fixed charge is based on meter size. That's what you're seeing over here. And everyone has a different meter size. One way of thinking about meter size is sort of like internet download speed. There's different packages you can buy, and you can buy like sort of a lower end package. And then if a lot of people are using the internet, things get a little bit choppy. or you can buy a very high end and everyone can watch a movie at the same time, different movies. So these are different meter sizes. Most customers have a 5/8 1 inch meter. That's most residential. The larger meters are more commercial, larger areas like hospitals, commercials, industries that will have that. Then we also have the commodity rate. The commodity rate are shown here. These are 5 tiers. We have tier one, which is the indoor needs. Tier two is the next one. And then we have the 3 tiers that are above the water budget and the associated rates. And so, what are some of the recommendations that we're changing? Well, one of them is that the state is mandating higher conservation from customers. They're actually mandating that the target for each customer is 47 gallons per day. We think that's a bit aggressive, so we're suggesting 50. Currently, we're using 55 in the rates. So we're saying 50 gallons. Now, this is for indoor needs. This is not your outdoor budget, like for watering your plants and stuff. We're just saying let's use 50. Most customers do that. It's actually because of all the end use appliance efficiencies out there now. It's pretty relatively easy if you, as long as you don't have a leak, you can make 50 gallons per day. The next thing is that the current rate structure is 5 tiers. We are suggesting that we simplify it. It just makes it a little bit more easier for people to understand and have 4 tiers. So we have an indoor budget, outdoor budget, and then tier three is 50% of the total budget and anything above that. A little bit easier to understand for people. We've also updated the drought surcharge. The drought surcharge is only needed during a drought condition. So it isn't something we're hoping to use ever. That's the plan. But in case something goes wrong, one of the things that I think we all realize now is that the weather has changed, is more volatile. There's more unknowns. We're hoping that, with this new project, we will have more resiliency, but there are things that's not in our control. So we would have a drought surcharge. It would only apply for people who are in the higher tiers, 3 and 4. So if you're inside your budget, you use water efficiently, you're doing a good job, you wouldn't be charged this drought surcharge. And again, only applied during drought conditions. And then we have developed a new rate for the 12-inch meters. That's for commercial accounts. Again, no resident will have a 12-inch meter. This is for like hospitals, basically, or strip malls or large malls. So these are the proposed rates. As I mentioned, we do go through a cost of service study where we documented this information. There is a report. We will recommend you to read it. It really goes into the nitty-gritties of how we develop the proportionality of these rates. These are the fixed charge, as I mentioned. Most customers, residential, has a 5/8 1 inch. So you can see what the current is, the proposed, and the rate schedule to 2029. Then you have the larger meters, and as I mentioned, those are more commercial or irrigation, schools, etc. So that's the meter charge. And then we have the commodity rates. Again, most customers are in tier one and two, and that's your indoor and outdoor budget. If you're above that, then you would be in tier 3 and 4, and you would pay more for that. These are the associated rates. So now lots changed here. We changed the tier definitions. The prices have changed. So what does this mean to you as an average customer? What kind of rate increase am I seeing? So what we wanted, and then we also have drought surcharges, excuse me. So drought surcharges, of course, only apply during a drought condition, and it's only applied on the higher tiers based on the stage. So the board would declare a stage, and these are the surcharges. So what does this mean to you as the average customer? So what we're showing you is 3 different groups of customers. So we're showing you someone who uses not much water, 6 HCF. HCF is the billing units we use. It's 748 gallons. The 25th percentile. So if you put all the usage and you put it at who's the 25th person or 25th percentile, that's 6. So that's like an indoor need. Average customer is 14 HCF. And then the higher end users are 18 HCF. And this is for a 3/4 inch meter. As I said, that's the most common meter for people. We have an irrigation area of 2,800. And then we ask ourselves, well, what's going on? So basically, your bill, if you're a low end user, will increase by $7.70. The average customer will see a $12.83. And then the high-end users will see a $16.22. And then what does this mean average to, other customers, other service areas here? So we have all the different service areas out there. We have currently, you see in the red, Palmdale, we have the proposed. One of the things that's happening is a lot of these communities are also going through rate studies. They're also increasing it. Unfortunately, a lot of increases are occurring. One of the challenges with operating a water system is that the infrastructures are old. We are dealing with a aging infrastructure, aging system, and it's getting at its end of its useful life, and people now need to replace it. And in the past, the federal government and the state had provided funding. There's less and less of that available. So more and more replacing and fixing the system is on the shoulders or backs of the customers. So customers now will see more and more of an increase in the bill. That is something that you see all throughout California, all throughout the United States, these increases, and that's something that is getting a lot of attention. And unfortunately, it's sort of the lay of the land in the sense that that's what the federal government is mandating local government to do. So now, I didn't see any questions through the presentation, but definitely if there is any, we'd love to hear them and be able to answer them.
I don't see any hands raised. Though I do want to highlight that the Palmdale Water District, let alone they are raising the rates, but they are being proactive about their water sources and maintaining their system. I'm not sure that there's any questions though. Was there anything else that you wanted to highlight, Dennis?
So moving forward, as we kind of show the items that are affecting the district as a whole, one of the biggest benefits that the district has is the board as well as management has taken a proactive approach in how they approach projects and things of that nature. We don't do anything that is unjust, but we do take and maintain the system so that we do have a value for future ratepayers and customers. One of the big things is repairing the infrastructure. A lot of agencies throughout the state are having problems with aging pipes, as Sanjay had discussed previously. We have tried to address that in the best possible way. However, our issue now is the fact that the inflationary portion has started to really impact our projects. Items that we did even several years ago have now doubled and tripled in cost as far as the overall replacement component. Don't really want to go into heavy details unless the public wants that. But when we're looking at just overall cost associated with materiality for maintaining the system, what was bought 15 years ago is not the same today. So we want to reinforce the fact that we're not trying to over forecast anything that the district needs as far as maintaining the system, but we do want to make sure that future ratepayers are also capable of utilizing that precious resource, which is water. The ability to go and turn on the tap and have water flowing is a key component to this rate study. And when we talk about Pure Water AV, and this is one of the big benefits, we anticipate that it'll be online by the end of 2029. This is a big benefit to the district because it will guarantee us 5,000 acre feet that we currently do not have as far as a reliable water resiliency factor. If we put that in perspective, the State Water Project is very volatile on its deliveries that we receive. We still pay the same amount annually for the capital component related to the state water project, but we are getting less and less return for that. The state has addressed this issue. They have a project that's getting developed right now. As far as I know, they've started doing some of the groundwork for it. This will actually be a diversion tunnel that will fix a lot of the problems that are seen up in the Sacramento River Delta. And as part of that, that particular fix is going to be done by 2041. So we'll have a good 10 plus years ahead of that fix. So we'll have stable water source. So with that, I'll leave it to any questions that the public may have. I guess we have an exciting topic that we have pretty much answered all the questions on.
Yeah, it appears nobody has raised their hand. So I want to thank everybody for attending the workshop. Reminder that there will be an in-person workshop if you want to review and revisit this information or have some more questions that you didn't want to be recorded asking. I guess I probably shouldn't have said that in the beginning. But that workshop will be on site at the Palmdale Water District office on October 23rd at 5 p.m. And if you do want to attend the rate hearing, that will be November 4th at the same office. All right. Well, have a great afternoon, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.